Welcome to the family with
Officer Dave.
Josh Arnold, Mr. Money Talk.
And Andy Brant Bernard.
in other words, the winning squad of four. Is that what we're talking about here?
Sure, we'll go with that.
I like that we have a dark green T-shirt, a black shirt, a lighter green shirt, and a red shirt. We got all the colors covered.
We got very Christmassy.
Yes, it's very Christmassy, absolutely. For Black Christmas on my side, it's Black Christmas. One of the weirdest movies I've ever seen in my entire life, by the way. It's about a sorority house invaded
Josh,
by...
do you celebrate Christmas?
I'm happy to celebrate any holiday around.
Okay, I'm good with that.
I'll say right now we celebrate, I've always celebrated Hanukkah.
Yep.
Until my children married a Catholic girl and a Catholic boy. Christmas was not a priority.
Understandable.
But I got to be honest with you. This is very, very true. Where I grew up, Catholics were the glue. You see what I'm saying? You had the Jews on one side, a lot of black people, and then all the Catholics. And we reached out to everyone and brought the community together.
That's because you tell a Catholic anything, they'll believe it.
Oh, that's nice. Oh, here we go. The personal attacks. Here we go.
Hey,
here we go.
Super
Super Dave had been quiet, shy, and reserved. I've got Andy with his wry sense of humor.
Yes.
Super Dave, just reserved and shy, doesn't want to interject. Now, having gotten to know me right away.
Attack. Yep.
The personal attacks.
Yeah, that's what it is, Josh. A personal attack for sure.
All right. Now, Josh brought something up. I didn't know about this. So
you weren't around last week.
Correct.
You could have been in Disney World. You could have been at the vet with your dog. We don't know, but
I could tell you.
Okay.
I had laser eye surgery on my left eye, and I'm having it on my right eye next week.
Oh my goodness!
But I'll be around. It's gone very, very well. I can see, Mom. I can see.
Now, is this laser surgery related to cataracts?
No, it's related. Well, actually, it is in a way because I had cataract surgery years ago. But then there's some little bulbous thing that can form behind them, which causes problems. They just go in and zip that and zap that and take care of it, and then you're good. I got to tell you what happened though yesterday before we continue with the show, because I'm sitting there and the doctor comes in. He's from like Croatia or somewhere. I don't even know where he's from. But a nice guy. We're schmoozing, all the rest of it. He goes, "So Tom, what do you do?" I said, "I do a morning talk show." I said, "No, where'd you go to medical school?" And he goes, "I'm a Harvard graduate." I'm like, "Pardon me. I got some Harvard guy poking me in the eye now. That's all I need." But just a great guy, great sense of humor. We laughed, we had a good time. It was terrific, no doubt about it.
Well, it's a good thing he was not in the campus quad in one of those paid for tents. But that's another story. I want to get back to Super Dave and the story that we started with.
Yes.
Because last week had a caller called in, asked Super Dave what was his favorite police cruiser.
Ooh.
And Super Dave promptly replied, just as I thought he would, the Crown Vic, the Ford Crown Vic.
Great car.
And Super Dave waxed eloquently about the Crown Vic, its size, its comfort, its speed, and all the stuff that Crown Vic could carry. No problem. Then he and Andy went on and started waxing a little more poetically about the Dodge Charger RT with that big Hemi engine and spinning the rear wheels as he took off after a perpetrator. And then they got around talking about EVs and how you could not have an EV, or he couldn't have an EV. And lo and behold, I'm in New York City meeting my new grandson, Jay Arnold Doe, also known as a lot of dough.
See, there you go.
So Marissa and Joe Doe had son Jay Arnold Doe 2 weeks ago. So I got to meet him for the first time. So Marissa and I are out for a little walk in the neighborhood with Jay Arnold Doe. And I see this little squad parked by the corner next to one of the newsstands and bodegas. And I look and say, nah, it can't be. In New York City, it can't be. I know they're woke in New York City, but an electric squad, a little Mustang EV squad car, and I whip out the iPhone, start taking pictures, and immediately the two officers roll down the window, and my daughter says, "Don't worry, don't worry. He's from Minneapolis. It's my dad. He was just on the Tom Bernard Family Show talking about police cruisers with Officer Dave, known as Super Dave. And they were talking about how you should not have an EV as a police car."
Right.
Now, these two guys decked in their equipment. So their vests, their belts, had their hats on, and there were two guys. They could not, if they had to get out of that car in a hurry, you would need a crowbar to pry them out. They could not, in an emergency, reach for anything but a microphone to call for help. And of course, we asked, "So do you carry a full charge?" Well, yes, we carry a full charge, but every, mid shift have to go back to headquarters, even though it's sitting there, to charge it up. And then I asked, "Well, what happens if you you have to chase somebody?" And they said, "Somebody's not going to go very far nor very fast. Do you see the traffic around here?"
Yeah, true. Good point. It is a good point. I've had 3 EVs now, 3 electric vehicles. One was a hybrid. I started out with I owned one of the first Teslas in America, as a matter of fact, which I loved the car. It had some problems with bricking and all that, so I got rid of it. Then I went with a Cadillac EV, which was the combo deal, gas and electric, which I liked. It was a good car. And now, of course, I have a Ford Mustang SUV that's all electric. But all I keep hearing from Ford is, we're not going to be making these anymore. I mean, you picked up on that. They have no people don't want to buy electric cars.
No, they don't.
I bought 3 of them. I had no problems. I got to be honest with you. I've had no problems. And that bricking thing where the car might lock up, I didn't care for. It never did happen to me, but I got rid of the car before it did. But yeah, I just, there's no great thrill in driving an EV, and I can see why people don't want one.
Well, I have no problem with them.
I don't
The thing of it is if you're going to use it around town, it's great.
Yes.
If you're just going to, bop down to the store or run into the city to work and then drive back home and plug it back in, I get no problem with that. But for me, it would never fly.
No, there's no question. The size of you alone would give that car. No, it's true, though.
It's just the jumping in and taking off and going on a trip. I don't want to have to plan my route. Oh, am I going to find a charging station? I don't need that.
I like them. They're fine, all the rest of it. But boy, I tell you, Ford just announced they've lost $1.6 billion in EV sales. That's
Ouch.
a lot of money, man.
Oh, it's a lot.
It's because
How about this? They lose, and I think this is both GM and Ford lose over $100,000 per EV.
Oh God.
You know, in manufacture costs, all that stuff. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And they're still 60 grand to the consumer, so it's
Yeah.
not like they're cheap for the consumer.
That's
either.
the base model is 60 grand.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And the prices on both the GM and the Ford EVs have come down considerably.
Yep.
I'm not going to say they're giving them away, but
Close.
they're on sale. More people, though, are wanting, at least according to both Ford and GM in their conference calls, more people want the hybrids.
Yeah.
Yes, that makes sense.
Hybrids make sense to me.
Yes.
They do. But
Isn't there a hybrid now? And maybe they all do. I don't know for sure. I had only one. But there's a hybrid now that while you're driving the gasoline part of it's helping to recharge the electric part of it.
Yeah, it's almost every hybrid.
yeah.
It is almost all of them.
Yeah, because alternators will
yeah.
produce a constant amount of electricity because
Right,
that's how generators work. Is as they spin, they produce electricity even if you don't use it.
Yep.
So the idea is 90% of the time you're not using all the electricity your alternator is putting out.
Yep.
So why not hook that up to a battery, hook that battery up to an electric motor, and there you go. Now you're not wasting all of this energy that your gas engine is already producing.
My son's got one of those Ford Fusions that do that.
Yep.
I think it's a smart move.
It's really smart. Yeah.
I have no issue, and it's a nice little car. So
There you have it.
Hybrids they make a lot of sense. The problem is that because they tried to force everyone away from gas,
Right.
a lot of people perceive non-gas cars as hostile
yeah.
because it's like, okay,
Yeah.
you're going to buy an electric car whether you like it or not. And people, even if it's something they want, being told that they have to do it makes them not want to do it.
Yep.
And so that's why there's so much pushback against EVs, because it's like, well, okay, I don't hate EVs, but I also don't really like being forced into buying one.
Right.
If maybe I don't have an extra $40,000 for the EV surcharge or whatever.
Yep.
So I like having the options.
Yeah. That's that whole shove down your throat thing.
Yep. And that's
Yeah.
if they had just been more subtle about it,
Yeah.
then there probably wouldn't have been even 1/10 of the pushback. But they had to say, nope, you got 10 years and you never get to buy one again. You're going to do what we say.
But that's how
correct.
people are now. You have to know that I will defeat you any way I can.
Yep.
People are such
Exactly.
a pain in the ass now. Josh, I need to call on your financial expertise for an answer to a couple of questions I have about a new series I'm watching.
Okay.
Okay, you ready? I want you
I'm
to do
ready.
the math for me here. Jeff Daniels has a new show, and I love Jeff Daniels. He's a great actor. He's got a new show called A Man in Full. The very first episode, they open in a boardroom, and there are about 12 guys sitting around a table, men and women, mostly guys, though, I think. They're sitting around this table, and all of a sudden, they start talking. And the head of the bank, who has a voice kind of like this, he kind of talks like this. He goes, we've got to do something about this. Jeff Daniels plays the part of a New York real estate investor and builder.
Okay.
So that's kind of money we're talking. So the head of the bank goes, we have got to do something about this. We've been patient. You haven't fulfilled your contracts. We've asked you to do several things. You haven't done it. We have to do something about your account. And Jeff Daniels said, okay, what would you like me to do? Well, we're going to have to call the number if you don't figure out a way to start paying your bill because your bill's gotten too high. And the assistant says, well, how high? He said, well, $800 million. He borrowed from our bank $800 million. And Jeff Daniels goes, whoa, wait a second. That's not right. It's actually $1.2 billion. Oh, God. So it would be basically 800. It'd be 1.2 billion instead of 8. No, it would, because it's 800 billion already. So that'd be trillion, wouldn't it? I don't even know, for Christ's sake.
Hold
You
on.
get
Is it
numbers that
800
big.
million for real estate?
I
And then
think it's. I think it's 800
I don't think
billion.
a bank is that big to be in the trillions.
I wouldn't think so.
But
I think-
the 800. So he actually borrowed 50% more
Yes.
from the bank. And the
Wouldn't
bank
his,
is like, we could have some problems here because the other depositors are, want some money and you haven't paid.
you're right. It has to be 800 million to 1.2 billion. You're absolutely right. It has to be because they're not going to get in the trillions. But the amazing thing about it is, it's a very hostile meeting.
Right.
But all I could think of is I have to ask Josh Arnold. I have to ask Josh Arnold because I'm floating those numbers in my head. There is no way you owe somebody $800 million without paying about at least 10% interest, is there?
No, you can pay. These are real estate loans. They're probably paying, he might be paying 5 to 7%.
Real? That's all, really?
Yeah. And depending on the time period, there was a short period of time where he probably was paying less than that.
Yeah. Okay, so if you're a big
And
investor,
he
that's what
is,
the
he is. That's a big investor.
Yep.
He's got a lot of real estate. And I imagine the loan is this is secured by the real estate. And he could be in default of some of the covenants of the loan. The bank really does not want to foreclose and take over. They don't want the buildings.
Answer and
And
go, hello, Pizza Hut.
Tom Bernard Show.
School hall 8-ball speaking.
there you go. I know this is tidy tidy diaper service. You wet them, we dry them.
Thank you. Thank you very much. But yeah,
Um,
boy, somebody really wants to get a hold of you. No doubt about that.
Well, that's
Maybe
we're very kind. My assistant needed some time off,
Oh, okay.
and
No,
the
I
ringer
understand.
rings. The ringer rings in my office
But what if it's Jeff Daniels calling for some help on
on
a
this
man in
particular
full?
loan. Well,
Yes.
let him cool his jets.
Okay, we could do that. No problem.
We can
But-
let him. I mean, in many cases, and this when you're talking about this particular series, which is, I'm guessing, based on a movie and on a book.
I think you might be right about that.
But that's good to know. A Man in Full. Where is the series on?
Netflix.
Oh, good.
It's really good. Really, really well acted.
I definitely need a new series to watch. I do like Jeff Daniels, but we'll go back to talking about real estate, and we could also even talk about Netflix stock, which is up significantly.
It
They
is
did
huge.
report better than expected earnings. They had more subscribers than had been expected, and the only negative, which they took a hit right after that, is Netflix said, we're no longer going to give subscriber numbers. We're only going to give revenue numbers.
Oh,
And analysts get bent out of shape. Oh, you're not going to give us subscriber numbers? Why, we've been tracking your company, that being Netflix, for years, only on subscriber numbers. We've never really cared about your total earnings nor total sales. Apple had a similar problem a number of years ago when they switched from saying, here's how many iPhones we sold, to just saying, here's our revenue number. And I was very ecstatic when Apple said, we're just going to give you the revenue number, because that's all our business really is about. Our company is about more than selling iPhones. And I'll come back to this in a little bit. But with real estate, when you start owing $1.2 billion on real estate, you are actually in control of the conversation, not the bankers.
Ooh, see, now that's why I asked you, Josh, because I was wondering who's actually in control here, the guy who already has the money or the guy who needs it back?
The guy who's got the money, who has the buildings, because he can then say, hey, here's what's going on. Let's renegotiate some of those loan covenants, and you will get your money back over a period of time, or we can renegotiate a few other issues. there was a gentleman who's written several books, and for a short period of time, from 2016 to about 2020, he moved his address from New York City to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yeah.
In the 1990s, there were some issues in the real estate market and with banks, where he owed the banks a lot of money. And he said, when you owe the banks this much money, you are in control. The banks are going to want to deal with you.
So, Josh, is real estate considered liquid assets?
Real estate is illiquid assets.
Right.
Okay.
Liquid means cash, basically.
Okay.
Cash base, you can turn something into cash either tomorrow, or you could turn, I'll say today or tomorrow, or you can get that cash within a few days by selling, we'll say, stocks or bonds.
Mhm.
So that's liquid money.
Okay. I didn't know if you
Illiquid
could
money
sell
would
the-
be real estate. And if you needed some liquidity, it's going to take you some time in terms of
selling.
refinancing the real estate, which is probably the faster way to get some money, which you could do on your house. It's, if you needed some money, you're not going to sell your house. You might get a second mortgage, or establish a credit line and then refinance something.
From
But
now
that's
on,
how
my-
you would liquidate. Something else that's illiquid would be an insurance annuity would be illiquid,
Hmm.
because you can't
Maybe
get
we
the
need to
money
turn the ringer
right
off.
away.
I gotta shut her down. That's what we have to do.
Shut her down or take a break and answer the phone. One of the two.
One of the
They want to get a hold of you badly. There's no question about that. I owe money to Josh. I better get a hold of him.
Mr. Money Talks, man. You gotta
Mr.
Money Talk.
Money Talk, 952-925-5608. You always get straight talk, not sugar-coated advice.
What a setup.
Set up.
I think that's good. That's what I pay for. That's what we pay the big bucks for.
Yeah, there you go, right there. So I just wonder. He's sitting there, and there are all these people around the table, and he's told that he owes the bank. I think it's 800 million. I think you got to be right, not 800 billion. That would be psychotic. But
Yes, that's basically impossible.
Okay, I'm gonna have to take it. It's the same guy.
I
He
understand.
must have an
That's
emergency.
not a
Don't
problem.
go away. Just put me on mute.
Can
Am I
do.
on mute?
Yep.
You are now.
You're on mute. Somebody needs some cash advice.
Somebody
I'll tell you
needs
that.
something.
Josh, help me.
Well, what's the old saying? If I owe you $100, I've got a problem. If I owe you $1 million, you've got a problem.
Right.
Because that
I think
means
that's
I've got
very
$1
true.
million of your dollars, and you don't know you're going to get it back.
Yep.
That's one of the things about these people who have these massive $800 million debts is like,
Yeah.
what happens if they just die or disappear? That money's not coming back.
Right.
So banks don't give that much money away unless they have a very good reason to, unless they think it's leverage, not debt.
Well, seriously, if you guys should watch the first episode of that and see if you like it, because it's very intense, very interesting, great actors in it. It's a really, really good show. But when they revealed you owe us 800 million. No, actually, I owe you 1.2 billion. It's like, okay, that's
Josh
really nice.
Has returned.
We're
Josh
back.
Arnold. He's
We're back.
giving great advice to people.
Yep.
What'd you do? Pick up the phone and just go, give up and hang up.
Why
He
can't
can't.
I get through? Why can't I get through?
Did he? Well, he finally got through.
I said, I heard you ring. You rang 4 times. For gosh sakes, you don't leave a message. You just leave a message.
So he's okay though, or she's okay.
He is okay.
Okay, that's all we need to know. That somebody's happy. That's good news. No, we're just still talking for a bit before moving on about this a man in full, the fact that you owe that much money. So you're saying they're paying about 5% interest on 1.2
Well,
billion dollars.
depending on the time. I mean, right
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
real estate loans are a lot more than that. Probably about 7% on some of the bigger buildings. But, and I say here's the big but. Eh, Office buildings in particular are trading down in price from
Yeah,
where they
right,
were,
right.
a few years ago. Now it's office buildings. Residential property is still up, but I don't think that residential property is going to continue moving up as fast as it once did because of the amount of building that's been going on. And at some point, you're not going to need as many apartments.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say in certain parts of the country, we'll say on the west coast of southern Florida, they had a big period of overbuilding.
Right, yes.
Okay. And now, if you drive across Alligator Alley, Tom, you probably see a lot of discounts
Mm-hmm.
on apartment complexes.
Oh, I could see that, absolutely.
I'm not so sure, because you live in the high rent district.
Oh, here we go.
Well, come
Big shot.
on. Well, I'm not saying you're on Fisher Island or something.
No,
or
that's Fisher Island's different. There, you got to be worth about $1 billion yourself to get on there.
or where? Hold on. Where did Jeff Bezos just buy two lots down in Miami?
He did in Miami. Yep.
And that particular enclave is very pricey, but that's single family houses. But
Mm-hmm.
on the west coast, north of Naples, apartment rents are coming down
Really?
fast. So that would bring down the price of that kind of residential property. But we'll go to commercial property if in fact Jeff Daniels is owing, we'll say in Minneapolis,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of money on commercial office space. He might in fact just tell the bank, sorry guys, take the property back. I'm out the door. I'm not paying.
Andy, do me a favor. Would you multiply $70,000 times 800?
800. Wouldn't that be like 56 million?
56 million.
Yeah, yes, 56 million.
That's the interest per year he's paying on the 800 million. So at
56
7%.
million. Fun stuff.
56 million on 800 million. That's
Now-
that's a lot of money.
Yeah. Now you're going to. This is, I'll say, this particular situation.
Oh, no, we lost
All right,
him.
then. I guess he'll come back. when
Didn't pay
he'll
his
come
phone
back.
Could
bill.
create a problem
There he is.
There
for
he
a
is.
lot
He's
of.
back. You were gone for
Yeah.
a second there.
Could create a problem for a lot of, we'll call it smaller regional banks that have money outstanding in real estate loans. And I know that is an issue that I've had a few clients call. What about the banks? Are a lot of banks going to go out of business? Well, many smaller banks will be ended up taken over by larger banks.
Yeah. I
But
see
the banks that have done a lot of lending on commercial property, and particularly office space, are in tough straits with
Mhm.
interest rates still high, and the likelihood of interest rates coming down over the course of the next 6 months very low. And if that money was lent to office space, actually, it doesn't matter whether it's urban or suburban, but urban in particular, that's going to be very, very difficult. I mean, in Minneapolis alone, there's a lot of vacant office space due to a lot of factors, and I found that one particular old office building that had sold, I don't know, 4 years ago for about $26 million. It was an older landmark property in downtown Minneapolis, just off Hennepin Avenue, and now let's see, it's probably about Hennepin Avenue and 4th, because the trolley car line runs down 4th Avenue.
Right.
Okay, so that building sold 4 years ago for $26 million. I did hear that building is now for sale for $8 million.
$8 million. They lost $18 million.
That's correct.
Oh, is that because
Now,
nobody
if-
wants to work downtown anymore?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's
Work
also
from home.
considered, it's not a Class A building. It's an older landmark property, and it's got some tremendous features in it. And when I heard that, I said, not that downtown Minneapolis is going to get, come back anytime soon and or very quickly, given crime statistics, given parking problems, given the way the government is. But here's a landmark building that's selling for, we'll say, 2/3 off
2/3
Where-
off. Yeah.
where it was just a few years ago. And this particular building could be converted to residential space
Yes.
with, I'm not going to say little problem, but I think the way the building is set up, it could be converted to residential or hotel space, as probably just as easy as the Fauché Tower was
Right.
converted from office space to hotel and residential space.
Now I have a question for you.
Yes.
In your story,
Yes.
does the word lumber enter into the story at all?
Lumber. Yes, lumber would enter into the story.
Oh, because there's a guy I know, his name is Tom Bernard, that did about 75% of his voiceover work in that very building. That building and the Fauché Tower, the two that you mentioned, is where I did all of my voiceover work for 30 years. I love those two buildings. Those two buildings are magnificent.
Those two buildings are tremendous. A good friend of mine and a guy who Tom, sold that property 4 years ago.
The Big K did?
The Big K did.
Man, he does a hell of a job with that stuff. There's no doubt about it.
Well, to me, the Big K has a lot of responsibility for, we'll say, turning the warehouse district into the North Loop.
No, it's true. He's very good at that stuff. Well, I assume when I get back, we'll be at the Cove with Big K, Big J, and Big T, huh?
That's correct.
I knew it. I like him. I've known him for years. Probably not a guy you want to piss off.
No, but he is a character.
He is a character. He is.
I have known, I'll say, the K for, well, let's see. He graduated. I've known him since 1970.
God, really? 1970.
Yeah, he and I went to Franklin and Marshall College together. He graduated a year ahead of me, and he played football. I ran track and cross country, and he and a group of his friends were definitely maniacs.
What are they going to do with all these properties, Josh? If they're dropping from 26 million down to 8 million, what the hell are they going to do downtown?
Well, I can't say replace the government because that's that's not going to happen.
No.
But you do have to increase we'll say, safety and security first
It's true, and I
to get people to come downtown, and to get people to come downtown, not just during the day to work, but to come downtown in the evening. So you need parking, you need good transportation. You have to cut out this nonsense of saying we don't want Uber and Lyft unless you're going to pay an Uber and Lyft driver more than I'll say more than the going rate.
Yeah, that's a good way to put
You
it.
cannot a government really cannot stipulate, unless here's what you got to pay or you can't do business in our city. Fine, we won't do business in your city.
Yes.
Goodbye,
that's what
good
happened.
luck. You come up with something else.
It's really sad because when I was Andy's age, Andy's about half my age. When I was Andy's age, I lived in that very neighborhood you're talking about. Not lived physically, but spent all of my time down there going, to Cookhouse, cutting commercials, going across. There was a little kind of like a playland right across the street. We'd go over to that deal. There was a Schindler's. I mean, I lived in that exact area you're talking about for about 30 years. I didn't live there at night, but during the day, I was there every single day and just loved it.
There's a lot of action there, and
It's a lot of
now
fun.
there's very little action, so to speak.
Yeah, because they don't want the cops to do their job. Well, look what happens to us when the cops can't do their job.
Can't go there.
You can't go there. Why would you?
Yep.
It's very unfortunate, and therefore somebody lost $18 million on a building, even if they do sell it for $8 million. I mean, that's very, very sad, and it all happened because of our politics in the state. That's why it happened, right?
Correct. That's just my humble view.
So we have a listener question for Dave.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, what's wrong with you? Is that the question?
That is the first question. The second question he'll remain nameless because of the nature of his question. He wants to know the process behind getting a parent's driver's license suspended.
Oh,
Parents' driver's license suspended.
oh. Sad
Okay, so
story.
that would be whoever this guy is. It's his mother is 96 years old.
Oh.
She can't see over the wheel of her Cadillac,
Sounds like you might know this person.
Maybe. It's
and
outside,
she's driving on the Florida Turnpike
Oh,
at 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
hyperventilating now.
As far as the listener's question, there really isn't. I've never had to deal with it, so I'm just going by what I would have done. First thing to do is to take the keys away, and sit down and have a very frank conversation that this isn't a good idea anymore. Kind of at the stage where we don't feel comfortable with you behind the wheel. It's probably going to cause a lot of anger and resentment because we get older and older and older, we lose our faculties. But literally it's taking the keys away. If they have power of attorney to sell the car, do that kind of stuff. But there's you could submit them for driver evaluation through the state. Is that going to prevent them from driving? No, because look at how many people have multiple DWIs and still keep driving. First thing to do is to get rid of the car.
Yeah, just because they don't have a license doesn't mean
Doesn't
they're
mean
not going
they
to
won't
drive. Yep.
Exactly. So as far as the listener's question, that would be sit down and have a conversation, see if they're willing to do that. My mom's, when she finally said, I can't drive anymore. I can't see well enough to drive. I shouldn't be driving. And I gave my mom a big hug and said, thank you.
Yeah.
It's
A tough decision to make,
Yeah.
but I mean, it happens to everyone eventually.
Yep. So, yeah, that's a hard one. And like I said, never actually having gone through it, but a driver eval and a frank conversation would be the best bet to take.
Very good. As long as we're on this, I've got to bring something up to you guys. Just saw this yesterday. I'm walking along, and there's a Vespa. It's an actual
my gosh.
motorbike. It's not a scooter; it's a motorcycle, right? So it's kind of a Vespa, right? And he wants to take a left, but he can't take a left because it's a one-way coming into him. So he cannot take a left onto that street. So this is 2024. What did he do?
Took the left anyway.
But where did he take the left onto?
The sidewalk.
You got it. So they're doing this I saw this yesterday. A guy's driving a motorcycle on the sidewalk.
Yep.
It's like, what?
Well, that's what I do when I'm playing Grand Theft Auto. There's a car in my way, just go on the sidewalk. Who's going to bother me?
But I couldn't believe what I saw. If somebody had stepped out from a store, he'd have run right over them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
I don't
God.
care. It's all about me.
Me,
More me
more
now.
me. It's true. He couldn't go around the block on a motorcycle. I
Nope.
got to take a left here.
I want to go right over there, so I'm just going to be on the side.
Oh, I could not believe it. But at least he was wearing a helmet.
Well, there you go.
So that's
He's
the good.
safe.
Yeah, he's safe. You're not, but he is. I saw that yesterday, Josh. I couldn't believe it. Why anyone would do that, I'll never understand.
I'm just dumbfounded. And then I'm thinking this morning when I was out running, I see a kid on one of those electric bikes,
Mm-hmm.
weaving, we'll say, in and out of traffic on his way to,
Oh,
I guess he was on his way to the local high school.
there you go.
And I'm thinking, one, you can't hear them.
Right.
And two, I mean, these things can go up to 30 miles an hour.
Yep.
Yes.
I mean,
see that
that-
all the time.
And I don't think he had a driver's license. But he also had a helmet on. I did see him on
That's
a helmet.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
he
he
was
did
safe.
have a helmet on.
We're already teaching Ethan helmet safety.
Good job.
He won't go on his bike unless he's wearing his helmet. And then
Good job.
usually he won't let us take his helmet off for another 2 hours.
Yeah, there's a shock.
Have his
No,
helmet
no.
on in the
Got
house.
the helmet.
And eventually I'm just like, okay, we're taking your helmet off. And he throws a fit.
One thing that Josh was just talking about that I see happen all the time because it happens to me. I walk 8 miles a day, so I'm constantly going for walks, right? What these electric bike people need to understand is we cannot hear you coming.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
if I move, I look over my left shoulder, my right shoulder before I'll move anywhere. Because I've had bikes come up on me, I could not hear them coming at all,
Yep.
and they zoom right by, and with about an inch of space between the two of you.
Yep.
Mhm.
What are you at 30 miles an hour? So
Yep.
if I'm not paying attention, something distracts me, and I step left one, I get smoked by that bike.
Yeah, and
Unbelievable.
those bikes, okay, they're not only, we'll say, they're not in the street, they're on the sidewalk.
They're
just like
on the
Vespa.
sidewalk.
Yep.
I don't understand why they have to be on. If you're doing 30, get on the road.
Yeah.
You know how the electric vehicles, they have the option to put like speakers in them so it
Yeah.
sounds like
Yep.
a ICE car, revving and everything. Those should be mandatory on bikes. They
They
should all
should.
sound
Some
like
kind of
Harley
sound.
Davidsons.
The old clothespin in the spokes thing.
That
Yes.
was, yeah. Why don't people do that anymore? Too old timey, I guess. Or put a baseball card in your spoke. There
Exactly.
you go.
Because you cannot hear them coming.
Get that-
You have no idea. They're right behind you.
They're
Get that
trying. They're trying
1940s
to push
aesthetic.
legislation that you have to have a driver's license for those.
Oh yeah.
Thank
They're
God.
trying.
Oh, that to me would make some sense.
Yes.
Because technically it is a motor vehicle.
Yes, it is.
Mhm.
So
It is.
Charlie wants to know if you can get the Twins games in Florida.
Yes, indeed, I can on MLB.
But
So-
once you move back up here, you can't.
Is
I
your
cannot.
is your provider Comcast when you're up here?
I don't think we have.
Yeah, I think it is.
If you're in Edina, it's Comcast.
Yeah.
Is it?
Because we are MediaCom out by me, and we do Fubo,
Yep.
and we can still watch the games.
Oh, we got Fubo.
Yeah, but I think it's the provider, your internet provider, Tom.
Yeah, there's like it's a web of, who's your ISP, who's your
Yep.
cable provider, what app are you using to watch it, where are you?
Yep.
Andy,
Very,
we don't
it's
have-
very upsetting.
Yeah, it
Very
is
upsetting with Comcast, and Bally Sports that they can't get a deal going. Comcast says it's Bally Sports' fault. Bally Sports says Comcast is not negotiating in good faith. Bally Sports, of course, is in Chapter 11, and they want to, come out of that. And I ask, where the heck is Major League Baseball? Why aren't you guys in here negotiating? You guys are getting some money out of this
Right.
deal.
Push their app.
Mm,
That's their product. Major League Baseball's pushing their product. Not,
yep. Exactly.
Well, I still even can't get their product because their product is blacked out here. If the Twins are blacked out here.
It's
on
because
MLB.
the companies make deals prematurely. So it's like we watched a bunch of Marvel movies a few years ago, and we couldn't get the first Hulk movie. And
don't waste your time.
No, I remember watching it in theaters, but I don't remember anything
Yeah.
about it. But I was like, okay, so it's a Marvel movie, but it's not on Disney Plus. Who owns Marvel? What's the deal? And it turns out they sold the rights to that movie to, I forget, maybe Apple or something
Yep.
years and years ago, before Marvel was like this big giant thing.
Yep.
But it's such a long-term thing that they can't take it back and put it on Disney Plus
Yep.
for so many years.
Yep.
But they didn't think like, we're going to be making this app called Disney Plus. It's going to be a big deal. We should
Right.
probably save all of our IP distribution rights for ourselves.
Yep.
So that's probably like the MLB probably went to Comcast and said, oh, hey, give us so much money. Here's your distribution rights. And then they launched an app later, but now they can't do anything because legally they're bound with a contract.
By that first contract.
Yep.
Yeah. As far as that Hulk movie, that was my favorite iteration of the Hulk because he actually grew when he got angry, got bigger as that matter he got. I'm a nerd, Tom. I'm sorry.
Well, how old are we? Are we talking? Because there was the Hulk TV show.
Yep.
Was it in the
the
70s?
70s with
Yep.
Lou Ferrigno
Yep.
and Bill Bixby.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's like that's the old.
That's
one.
the old one.
Mhm. The
Uh,
movie I was talking about is 90
Ang,
something.
that was
maybe?
Ang Lee who directed that one.
Mhm. The Incredible Hulk.
The Incredible Hulk was the second one.
That was the
with
second one. Okay.
Edward Norton.
Yeah, they replaced.
Yep.
Yeah, the first guy.
Yep. Eric Bana was Bruce Banner.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, Tom. I'm such a geek.
No, it's all right. Josh and I are just looking at each other like, God, are we getting
What
nerded
the
out?
hell are they talking about?
We're getting all nerded out here. What's going on?
I'm just thinking of the comic books. The
Yeah.
whole comic
I
books.
used to love comic books.
Yep.
Man, I loved them when I was a kid.
I don't know if I've ever actually held a comic book.
Really? Oh, you're missing out.
I mean, I've read them like digitally, but I don't think I've ever actually bought a comic book before.
Oh,
So that's how I got to be a huge nerd.
That's how everyone got into that sort of thing
Yep.
before probably the 90s,
Yep.
maybe
Wait
the
a
80s. I don't
Se-
know.
70s and 80s. And
Yeah.
Wait a second. How did you, if you didn't read comic books, how did you ever order your X-ray vision sunglasses? Remember those in the back of every
Yep.
comic? You get the X-ray vision glasses.
Well, even I
Yep.
know about those.
Oh, do you really?
Well, they're 6 to 8 weeks to arrive. Yeah.
Yes, exactly right.
And now we're like, if it doesn't come within 3 days, not even worth ordering it.
God, that was fun being a kid.
Yep.
I love that about being a kid. The X-ray vision sunglasses. Like,
Mhm.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
or
Sure they
glasses,
work
I guess.
really well.
Oh, I'm sure you could see right through someone's head. There's
Oh, I
no
remember
question.
I read up on those because I was always wondering, like, how do those actually work? And it turns out they basically just unfocus what you're looking at, so it creates
Oh.
this halo effect around them, so it looks like you're looking at an X-ray.
Oh,
It's just
God.
complete crap. But as a kid, if you're 6 years old, you put those on, you probably think, "Oh, I'm seeing ghosts" or whatever.
Oh, look at my life and how much better it is now.
Mhm.
Great, wonderful. It was a lot of fun though back in the day, no question. God, what were some of those other ads? There was the X-ray vision glasses, and there was
Sea monkeys.
Oh yeah, sea monkeys. You always could order a bunch of get
was
3
another
dozen
one of them.
sea monkeys.
Yep.
You're right.
Charles Atlas course to
Yep.
with the guy getting the sand kicked in his face. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
The
Skinny guy,
Yep.
Yep.
Mhm.
is with this gorgeous girl
On the beach. Yep.
on the beach, and Arnold comes up to him, kicks sand in his face, takes the girl.
Yep. And then he goes and he orders the Charles Atlas course, and he's kicking sand in the other guy's face at the end. Yeah.
And he gets the girl back.
And he gets
Right.
the girl
Oh,
back.
does he?
Yep.
Of
Okay.
course.
We had it was not the same situation with us. We never got sand kicked in our face because we knew a guy named Lyle Johnson who was about Officer Dave's size, so nobody ever bothered us.
It's funny how that works, isn't it?
Also, you probably didn't spend a lot of time at the beach when you were a kid.
Well, that's probably true, unless they served beer. Then we did, I suppose. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah, that sounds like my son Judd when he first moved to New York. He had a friend named, actually, I think it was one of his roommates in New York was named Brad. So Judd, I think you've met Judd. Judd's about 5'8", and Judd has a little bit of a mouth on him.
No.
No, not Judd. And they were a whole group of friends were, they were all working, we'll say, in private equity, or they were hedge fund analysts, and they were all would go out on a Friday night or Saturday night. And I hear that this story from Brad one day. Yep, we were out, and Judd was trying to order a drink, and somebody gave a lip to Judd, and Judd lipped back, and this guy started in and with Judd, and Judd says, "You don't want to do that."
Ooh.
And the guy said, "Well, why not? I have a Brad." And this guy goes, "You have a Brad? What? You're going to pull something on me? You have a Brad?" And Judd looked over. Brad. Here comes Brad, 6'4". He's only 250 pounds.
Oh, he's a little guy.
Yeah, he's a former college defensive lineman.
Oh God.
And the guy goes, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Oh, never mind. I don't want to do that anymore.
Yes. And you can have this seat at the bar, Brad. Goodbye.
All right, we got a couple of minutes left. Any closing words? Anything? Like I said, watch A Man in Full because I think you'll really like it. Especially Josh, I think you'd love it because of the numbers of it all.
Oh, we love the numbers. Here, I'll give you a number. $110 billion. We'll talk about billions. $110 billion.
And then you freeze up.
That
He's frozen.
Apple announced last night when they announced their earnings. They beat their numbers, top line, bottom line. They announced an increased dividend. They gave we'll say, semi-upbeat guidance. They talked a little bit about artificial intelligence. They did not sell as many iPhones as people had expected.
Yeah. And then he dropped off. All of a
He's still
sudden.
going. I'll guarantee he's still going.
Oh, I'm sure he is because I don't think he know. Why would he drop off like that, Andy?
I'm guessing internet in his area is not great.
That's what I'm thinking.
Here it
Oh, he's
comes.
back. He's back. There you
Oh,
go.
here 100. Did you hear the 110 billion?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
that Apple announced $110 billion share buyback is the equivalent of Apple buying Boeing. Well, it's the market capitalization of Boeing, or Apple buying the combined GM and Ford. That's what $110 billion buyback looks like. That's how much cash that Apple generates, and the idiots out there, oh, Apple doesn't have any innovation. Apple can't do this. Apple can't do that. Apple's losing share in China. They're not selling as many iPhones as we thought. Thinking, hey, grow up. That's one of the reasons that Apple switched from talking about the number of phones they sold to the revenue that the company generates. And they generate an awful lot of free cash flow to generate that kind of cash that they can buy back shares. And buying back shares is a positive thing for shareholders. It's another form of return of capital. And then the next question that the SO, significant other, asked me, well, why don't they take that money and go out and invest that in other companies? And I said, well, honey, they probably would like to do that, but the government already looks at Apple as a monopoly because of the number of iPhones they sell and their closed loop system. So they don't want to incur the wrath of the government any more than they already have. So why not just buy back shares? Or as Warren Buffett has said, if you cannot find anything to invest in that's as good as your own company, buy your shares back. And Apple
I love it.
is doing that.
All right, boys, we'll have a great weekend. We'll talk to you all next week. No question about it.
Thank you very much. We'll see you soon.
We'll see you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Got a picture in my noggin reminds me of this one was before. And every time I hear the same, reminds me how you talking